Hi everyone, so today we're going to have a look at a different drawing style. So in the last video we had a look at isometric drawing. We also discussed the difference between isometric and oblique and the importance that you've got to use a slightly more complex drawing style and technique. So the two most common ones you can use at A level are your isometric, and then the other one is perspective drawing as well. Now if you did design or art related subjects at GCSE, it's probably a drawing style that's quite familiar to you. So typically used quite a lot in architectural style drawings. So what I just quickly want to do as well, if I could just show you. So with perspective drawing, typically you've got two different kinds. You've got 1 point and 2 point perspective. So what you have is you've got vanishing points which go on the left and right of your page. Then you got your horizon going along, and you have all your construction lines coming off, which are all these lines here, to help with your guide. So with isometric drawing, you've got your grid paper, and you always stay on the grid to sort of use those as construction points. Whereas with perspective drawing, you make your own construction lines going back to the vanishing point. So the idea, it looks like it's face onto you, and as it gets further away, it looks smaller. Now, typically, it's expected that you would use 2 point perspective as opposed to 1 point perspective. But you have a choice really of whether you would choose to use isometric or perspective drawing with your designs. So what I am going to do is I'm going to get my sketchbook out. I'm going to go through some basics of perspective drawing with you, and then I'd like you did with isometric drawing, I want you to have a practice at just grabbing random objects around your house and trying to draw those in perspective. Okay, so we're going to have a look at doing some perspective drawing. So the same rules apply with using your sketchbook the whole time. Make sure you got your sharp pencil, fine liner pens of any colours, your rendering pencils, ruler, rubber, sharpener, those types of things. So hopefully now your sketchbook will start to build up with all the different skills we've been practicing as we go through. So you can do this with a ruler, but I'm just going to freehand it because I've got a good understanding of the basics of perspective. But if you prefer to use a ruler to make sure things go back to all the points, you are more than welcome to do that. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my vanishing points on my page. Now typically that is done with an X. Now then you have your horizon, which goes straight across. There, so those are my two vanishing points. That's the first thing you need to do. Now the whole point of having your horizon is if you draw a sketch below the horizon or above the horizon, they all look different depending on which way you do it. So if you draw something below the horizon, you're essentially looking over the top of the sketch, and if you draw something above the horizon, you're looking underneath it. So just to give you a bit of a better understanding of that, simply we're going to do 4 cubes, one in each corner, so you can see the difference. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a straight line up and down like that. So then what I'm going to do is every line, apart from up and down lines, which just go up and down, every other line that comes off at an angle needs to go to the vanishing point. So I'm going to do it nice and lightly. So this is where, if you're not confident to begin with, use a ruler. So I'm doing this nice and lightly because these are all going to get rubbed out at a later point. Like that. So I've got my straight up and down line, and then I've got my construction lines going back to my vanishing point. I'll then do a couple more up and down lines. Like that. Now this is where some people get a little bit confused, is all these points still need to go back to the vanishing point, but because it's already going to that one, it's going to come all the way across to the side of the page. Like that. And then same again. Like that. Okay, so that is now the basics of getting your cube. I'm going to do another one in each of the corners just so you can see the difference. It does get a little bit confusing sometimes if you have so many construction lines going everywhere. So it's just make sure you're thinking as you're doing it, you're not automatically just copying lines across. Because sometimes too many lines can get confusing. So you can see it on this second sketch. Obviously I've got some lines going through there. We'll go over with fine lines just in a second just to make it stand out a little bit more. So then I'll do two more at the top of the page. Okay, like that. So I am going to go over with final pens just to straighten it all out a little bit. But that is the basics of doing perspective. So with all your sketching styles, no matter which style you choose to use, the same sketching techniques still apply. So you're still expected to do things like thick and thin lines and render them, but it's down to your preference. It's important that you can show that you can do all of the skills, but you will have a personal preference, which is absolutely fine, as long as you show you've tried each one of those skills, and then you just choose whichever one you are better at. Now, obviously, I've done this freehand. That's just demonstration, quick sketching. If you were to say be doing your final design of a particular project, you might have to spend a little bit longer, and you're going to do it with a ruler just to make sure everything is in line. Now, and as well with the isometric sketching, obviously I'm just doing simple cubes at the minute, and we all know how to draw cubes. I'm just trying to go over the basics with you. What you can do, like you do with the isometric, is use the cube as, say, a construction box to help you draw more complex objects. So I will do a little demo of that as well, just to help you out. You may find occasionally tilting your sketchbook across a little bit makes it a little bit easier to draw the lines. So now they stand out a bit more, then I will just add my thick lines just again to make them stand out more on my sketch. So remembering that line work rule, the spider rule. So automatically now you see it stands out a lot more on the page. Okay, so that's the basic understanding of vanishing points and what happens above and below the horizon. So you can see the fact that all these two sketches are above the horizon, which is that line, very thin line across there. We can see underneath it a little bit, and everything below the horizon we can see over the top of it. Now, this is a very common sketching technique used for those that do architecture-based projects, because it's very easy to make sure you follow all the construction lines properly. So what I'm going to do now is I will just get an object, and I'm going to just show you practicing how to use construction boxes in perspective to help you draw 3D objects. Okay, so now I'm going to draw my phone. So obviously I drew the phone in isometric, so I figured I may as well keep the same object just to show you for reference. So to begin with, like with isometric, I'm just going to draw out a construction shape first. So I'm going to get, just for reference, put my vanishing points there. So obviously I don't need a regular square, I need like a shorter rectangle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it below the horizon. That way I can see over the top of it. And then just going to make sure I've got about the right perspective. Obviously I wanted to do this more accurately. I could then actually measure the object properly. But for this instance, where I'm just sort of freehand quickly drawing out an object, it's fine. So you can see how basically I've drawn the basic shape for how I'm going to end up putting my phone in there. So then what I can start to do is I can start to round out the objects, the corners a little bit. So what I'm going to do is just start to round out the corners a little bit. Now don't worry if it looks a little bit, obviously I'm pressing a bit harder in some of these instances. That's just because I'm trying to make sure some of the features stand out a bit more. But once I've finished, you do thick and thin lines and you render everything, it will all be in the same sort of tone. So then I'm going to look at, okay, I need to have my speaker, so I'm going to just pencil in roughly first, because then what I'll do is these points will go back to the vanishing point, like that, and then these need to go back to the vanishing point as well. And then that is on there. Now, same again if I'm going to do things like my camera, so I need to have as a reference so I can draw my camera in place. Then on the surface, obviously there's a little the faded outline of the screen. It goes quite far down. Once you get used to going back to the vantage point as a reference, you don't always have to make your lines go back if you're used to it. If you sort of know in your mind where it is, you can just keep going it that way. And then obviously I've got buttons and switches at the bottom, so I'm going to measure out where they need to go. So up and down lines can still stay straight up and down. We go back to the vanishing point. I need to round the corners up a little bit. And now I've got some switches on the side that need to be done. And obviously to make them look a little bit like they're sticking out, I need to give some depth to them as well, because most switches don't just sit completely flush, they come out a little bit. Maybe not quite as much as that, but for now that'll do. It's probably a bit more better with the depth. So in terms of features, that's all the ones I need to have on there. So now obviously I can just sort of tidy up my sketch a little bit, start to do some thick and thin lines. So then always start, remember, with your finished fine line. This is always a good idea to have your fine liners ready to go. So I'm going to start obviously with the finished lines, just to make sure the features are standing out. So when you add in your thick and thin lines, you might find sometimes you don't really need to get rid of your construction lines. Because the whole point of doing this sometimes is to make sure it just stands out more clearly on the sketch, because you have all the construction lines that can make your page look a little bit cluttered and it's quite difficult to make out sometimes. So that is one of the benefits of using the techniques. And obviously I have used construction boxes on pages as well, which I won't need for my actual design because it's not actually part of the design. I just drew those boxes to help with the initial sketching, so it's not actually part of the design. So that's all the key details done. So now all I'll do is just again do my really thick lines just to emphasize that the design stands out from the page. Now there will be a couple of thicker lines I need to have here. Like that. So that was gone from the basics of doing your cubes and understanding your vanishing points and your horizon to just taking objects, trying to draw them in perspective using construction boxes to help you, thick and thin lines. Now obviously the last thing I will then do is render my sketch as well. I'm not going to do that in this video, we've covered rendering already, but what I will do at the end of all the tutorials of all the different sketching techniques we've looked at, I'll just go through with you what my sketchbook currently looks like, because hopefully now it's starting to build up with your drawing practice. If you've got any questions or you have any suggestions for tutorial videos that people might find helpful or interesting, send me an email. It's on the SharePoint and I'll try my best to do it. Thank you.